Claire, thank you so much for joining us on Real Talk. Again, I'm really excited for this conversation because I think what you and your organization has done has just been remarkable. So first of all, thank you for joining us and welcome. And Claire, could you maybe tell everyone just a little bit about yourself, your journey, and who you are?
Sure. Well, my name's Claire Buckler, and I'm seated in Springfield, Missouri. And I've been with the Graddy Real Estate team here in Springfield for almost 6 years now. I believe 5.5 years. And I actually I worked for 10 years for a software company. So I did customer support, quality assurance, and Adam was my agent. He helped me buy a house, sell a house when I got married. And I saw he was looking for an inside sales agent years ago. And I'd been at the same job for a long time and was looking for something different. And we connected, and they brought me onto the team. And I've loved it. And I was their first ISA. And fast forward, 5.5 years later, we now have 13 ISAs. 2 hub locations. So we've partnered with another team out of Wichita, the Graddy Roy team, and we have 4 expansion locations. And so 2 hubs, and it's a busy organization.
So looking at all that, first of all, amazing and impressive. I think when we, as you said, coming from software, coming into this situation, was there ever a desire to sell real estate, you personally?
Not really.
No, right?
No. I think the reason's different for everybody. I've never wanted to be like the face or the name or anything like that. I've always had more of a supportive role. I love making sure things run really well behind the scenes. And my biggest excitement in taking this position was building a team. I'd been passed over for a management role of a department that I had been a part of for 5 or 6 years at my last company. And I really wanted the opportunity to grow and lead people. And Adam gave me that opportunity here. And I actually had a piece of it. I interned with the real estate team. I went to high school in a really small town, and I interned with the real estate team there and got my license at 18. And so I already had a piece of that. I worked kind of what you would almost call now a showing partner role. I would show houses, sometimes for the owner. Sometimes I would babysit her kids. Sometimes I would stuff envelopes. It was really whatever she needed. But I'd had a little bit of that taste, and I never had the want to drive around and show properties and things like that.
Claire, that's what I think is amazing is so many people think that this is what we hear all the time. Every ISA is just doing this so they can become an agent.
Yeah.
Right. And our experience, and especially with your experience, it's just not true, right? There's a lot of amazing, talented people. And I think, one of the things that I know you shared with my business partner, Owen, and so many others is the ISA and the agent are equally as important. Not one is this stepping stone to the other. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, we definitely view it that way. And when I interview a lot of people, obviously having 13 ISAs, I've done lots of interviews to get that many people. And one of the questions people will always be like, oh, when you talk about your 5-year plan, oh, and maybe one day I'll get to be like a real agent, right?
Yeah.
That's a very common thing we hear. And, when you circle back around that, oh, well, what about that seems really exciting? Obviously one of it's getting to see the houses in person, but if that's not number one, it's number 2. But the top issue is, reason is they want to make more money. And so what we found is they don't really want that role. They want the ability to make money based on their talent. And if you can give them that ability in the ISA role, they don't really want to leave. They just want the ability to make more money.
So with that whole, I guess, mindset, then what I wanted to do today, especially is because I was so excited about this episode, is to just kind of take a deep dive and first of all, kind of simplify it. I mean, obviously a lot of our listeners or watchers I think they understand what the ISA role means. And I've heard the ISA role in so many different fashions as far as, an outbound ISA, right? Or an OSA. So I really want to dive deep into just if I'm in real estate and I'm thinking about, either maybe taking a career path into real estate as an ISA, or I'm looking to hire my first ISA or my 30th ISA, like you guys, right? When I'm looking at that, I guess, kind of deconstructing it in your organization, is there different types of ISAs in how they're structured? Is there people that are just straight up outbound cold calling? Or are there people that are just straight up taking inbound leads? How does that work?
Yeah, for our organization, I use the term ISA, which is typically inside sales agent. And that would, in some industries or in some teams, be only inbound leads. Our ISAs do a mixture of inbound and outbound. I've seen teams that structured exactly like you said. Some people are always outbound, some people are always inbound. And I think if you were to separate those, you are looking for two slightly different people. Yet I think that to be a good round inside sales agent, you have to have some prospecting. I think prospecting, when you talk to most team owners, how did they build their business? They were boots on the ground. They really hit the phones hard. And I think it's important that we all go through that and have a little bit of that in our daily routine. So we have a lead schedule. All of the ISAs typically have some part of outbound prospecting at least a couple times a week. And depending on the amount of maybe open houses or new listings, they might have an additional, circle calling the neighborhood type piece that would go along with it. So I think it keeps people hungry and humble to have to do a little bit of prospecting. And, I just think it's a good mix to have for the team.
Yeah, which I can see, because otherwise it would kind of get stale, right? You're just kind of a customer service call center if they're just taking the inbound.
Yeah, and you become dependent on the team. You become, well, the phone didn't ring today. Well, some days the phone doesn't ring, and so if it doesn't ring, what are we going to do? It doesn't change our goal. It doesn't change the number, so we have to find another way to bring the business in.
Gotcha. Okay. So if I'm starting out and I'm thinking about, if I'm deciding between, should I be a real estate agent or an ISA, what have you seen in those qualities that maybe, are they equal? Is there, hey, I just really like hitting the phones. You hear that a lot. It's like, if you don't like the phones, you're not going to be a good ISA or whatever it is. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, yeah, to a degree, are they close? Are they similar? Or is it clear, like, hey, you should be an ISA, you should be a real estate agent?
That's a great question. And I do think in general, they're a very similar person. I find the biggest definer between the two is your work home balance. Can you be gone till 7 or 8 o'clock at night? Our agents, because our ISAs, we run such a great ISA team, our agents are very much in the field, and an agent position on our team is a tough job. They're gone a lot. They have a really wide schedule, and some people love that. Others, like, that puts me in I get hives thinking about it, right? Because I'm a very scheduled person. Sure. And my kids expect to be picked up at a certain time every day, bedtime's at a certain time every day. And an agent life is not, that's not for me or my schedule. And so sometimes it comes down to that. We've had really great agents that have come and take a more supportive role because their family life doesn't allow for them to have that kind of lifestyle. And so I think lifestyle can be the number one determiner for which role you would go into.
Yeah. Quality of life, like you said, there's pluses and minuses to both sides there. So let's talk about some numbers here, so everyone out there can understand when we say the best of the best, rock star, ISA team. So last year or last 12 months, how many closed units total?
I would need to look it up again, but it was right around, we had around 1,700 closed units between the hubs and the expansion locations. And I believe the numbers were in that, it was right around 50% were from the ISA team. And that can depend. Some of our hubs are higher than some expansion locations, but as a department, it was about half.
1,700 closed units, and 50% of those coming from the ISA setting that appointment or engaging that client, right? So when you started as the initial ISA, right? It was you. I guess talk us through that journey from, how many units were you doing? How many units were you at that point?
Yeah, I started in March. The first year, I think I closed 60. My first 9 months, I was right around 60. My full year after that, I was right around 120.
That is, so why do you think, Claire, that so many people struggle to either have an ISA team, work with ISAs? All of the coaching clients that we work with, it's like, oh, I tried it, it didn't work. Oh, this person, it didn't work. I mean, you hear it all the time. I mean, you coach, amazing talent across the country. Is it that hard, or are we making it hard? What's the problem?
Yeah, I think it's a twofold problem. I think that it's the person we put in the position. That can play a huge part, but even bigger than that, it's the mindset and the culture of the team and how they treat the ISA. It's the number one. It's the number one killer. And to talk a little more broadly about that, it's again treating the ISA like an entry level role, right?
Yeah.
So what I see is they get a telemarketer. Right. They bring in, and I even saw somebody refer to this position as a telemarketer just this morning, like in quotes or something. I was
all the time. Yeah.
All the time. So they bring in a telemarketer. They give them some old scripts, right? Some old bold scripts they got years ago. And they give them a phone. They set up some appointments, and then their agents say, oh, they were really bad appointments. Couldn't convert them. It's done. So what happens is the agents don't find value in the appointments. They don't give good feedback back to the ISA. And then, we hire ISAs typically as half commission, half salary. And everybody takes the feedback from the agent at their word that they're not great appointments. And we never work on helping the ISA set a better appointment, or maybe help the agent convert the appointment better. And then the ISA never gets paid. And then 3 months, 6 months, they're out because they didn't make any money. And so they're out, and then we failed. And then we were like, oh, well, that role didn't really work for us. And my feedback would always be, how hard did we really do everything we could have done to make that person successful? I was really fortunate. Anna Kruger was my coach for 3 years. So if you're part of Keller Williams or MAPS, she's obviously a very talented ISA coach. And they hired her before they hired me. She was part of my interview process. And having somebody kind of guide you along. She helped guide me and Adam, and Melinda's our director of ops. She's amazing, but they helped guide all of us along, and it helped us make less mistakes. And we stayed kind of on the path a little bit easier. And, that would be one of the things, Adam made $1,000 commitment, on having somebody help me right away. Right. And I say for any new hire, any position, if you put that kind of emphasis on them, like, he was willing to bet an extra $1,000 a month on me. And that gave me a lot of confidence, knowing that he really wanted this to work. And he took Anna's feedback, hey, we need to be helping the agents here. Like, hey, I tell this story a lot, when I started with Adam, I asked Adam his conversion rate, signature, how many people he signed. It's like, 90%. And he is a great converter, right? Sure. Yet when we actually track the numbers and we start giving him for sale by owners and expireds and things like that, it wasn't 90%. And he's a great enough leader to say, oh, that's somewhere that I need to fix. And so we fixed it. And not everybody's willing to do that. Not everybody's willing to start putting their numbers on a scoreboard to say, how well are we really doing with the appointments that we're given?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, and I love that word scoreboard. So I'm going to come back to that, because I think, again, the data is so powerful, because if you're not a number, everyone goes, oh, I'm not a numbers person. I'm in real estate. I'm not this. I go, it's not a lot of numbers. There's a few key numbers we have to get right. Otherwise, how can we know if we're getting better or worse? Right. Mm-hmm. But as you know, people don't track anything, right? They hate it because it's like, it scares them. Right. It's like, oh, I have to actually be honest with myself that I'm doing this or not doing this correctly. And a lot of people don't want to do that. At what point should I add an ISA to my team? Like in your mindset, like, because I get that question quite a bit. And then from there, we can kind of go down the road. But so when should I be looking to get an ISA? I know agents that are doing 20 deals a year and they're like, you know what? I'm getting an ISA. This business is crazy, right? And I'm like, you did 20 closed units. Like, so when and why should I do it?
So my kind of standard is if you're not calling every new lead at least 5 times in 5 days, or if you're not entering every lead you get into the system, then you might benefit from an ISA, right? An ISA is there to make sure every lead gets entered. Everybody's getting at least 5 calls in 5 days. They're getting on a plan of some sort. The ones that don't answer, like they're bringing some organization to your database, making sure different buckets of people get contacted. The other thing to consider is, do I have the bandwidth? So let's say we're going to pay the ISA $24,000 and they're going to get $400 a transaction, right? Can I produce enough transactions to get them enough commission to pay them a livable wage, or what they would want, right? If you want a $60,000 ISA producer, can you actually produce enough closings to give them that kind of money? So kind of to your point, if somebody's got 20 units, well, if those units are all $10 million, then maybe. we might be okay.
Maybe.
Right.
Okay. Which makes a lot of sense. So how are you finding these amazing, talented individuals? Are we on Indeed, ZipRecruiter? Where do I start? I'm posting an ad. I go, you know what? It's time. I think what you nailed on the head there, which I really like, is leads entered into the system. It's crazy to me that so many agents talk to so many people and they just don't put them into the CRM or their, database. And I'm like, it's just, you're literally lighting money on fire, right? So just that single action of having eyes on your database, if of course you're making enough money, could be worth it in itself. So when you start to go out and say, great, now it's time, where are you finding these amazing people?
Yeah. So what I've learned about recruiting, and I don't think this is specific to the ISA role. I would say this is probably any role, is recruiting's just like prospecting. It's like outbound prospecting, and paid leads. So leads from Indeed, they have about the same return as circle calling somebody. So you can do an Indeed ad. I run one typically to go along with my other prospecting for talent, but it's about the same return, right? You need 100 Indeed leads to get maybe a handful that would be worth putting through the interview process. So, right, it's costly. It's a lot of people to go through. The best people we find are in our database, just like you would find your best listings for your team. Your best team members are going to be the people that are past clients or their friends or family of past clients.
Wow.
And so I would use your database. The people that we've had the most longevity and that are still here, they are friends of people that work on the team, honestly. They're friends, acquaintances, a friend of a friend. They heard about us through the team member. And they've been the best people.
Well, I love what you said there. And I'm going to probably put this on my whiteboard in front of me, is prospecting for talent. So talk to me a little bit about that. Like, do you have a kind of contact goal or number of recruits you're trying to talk to on a weekly basis? Like, how do you prospect for talent?
Yeah, it is very similar to that. And I will say I go through waves. It's not something I do all year round. But last year I was really struggling. I had some hires not stick. I was struggling to find good people. Jordan Freed is my coach now. And so that's where we came up with the prospecting for talent. And it was 5 contacts a day, 5 prospecting contacts a day. And I tracked it just like I did when I was in ISA. It was people talked to, it was phone interviews done, KPAs issued, which is a Keller Williams and a hiring process. And then it was a meeting in person, and it was job offers. And that's how we tracked it that way.
Right. I think people underestimate how much goes into finding great talent. I think people post an ad, they get a couple of resumes, they want the pain to stop as quickly as possible. So they hire somebody that, they think is good enough. And then, like you said, slap some scripts in front of them and say, get to it. As far as your process, let's say my cousin, I refer my cousin to you. What happens next before cousin makes it to getting hired?
Yeah. So we would do a phone interview where I would ask them, think what has you looking for a change? If I saw weird stuff on their resume, I might ask questions about that. I'd give them a little information about the job. I'm really upfront. Some people hold off on this. I let people know right away, this is what we pay. It's commission, mostly phone, great job. So the one thing about the ISA, I don't think we've touched on, it's a great job. It's not a great job the first year. The first year is tough, right? I did 60 transactions my first year, but I did 120 my second year. And I can tell you my second year, I didn't work as hard as I worked my first year. And so I have that conversation up front, like it's a fantastic job. Love it. It's a tough job your first year. So we walk through that. They're still good to move. I'm still good to move. We do the KPA, which is a personality assessment through Keller Williams. If they, right, all of these have if they ands, right? If they do it, then we move on to the next one, right? Even the phone interview, we schedule it. If they miss it, we don't move on. Like I don't schedule it.
And people miss it all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's so crazy. It's like, So
if they miss that, we don't move on. Then they come in and we go through the KPA. I do condense it just a little bit. So we go through a little faster than Gary might like us to. And then we're going to do, if we move on from there, there's their next meeting in person. They're going to meet with the lead ISA for their whatever group we're hiring for. So we have a Springfield group, a Wichita group, and then an expansion group. So they would meet with the lead for that group and they would make phone calls. So we would have them call some sort of list, give them a script, and really we're testing, are they afraid to pick up the phone? We find that if somebody asks me 10 questions before they pick up and make the phone, like that's a sign that they have some call anxiety, right? They're a little nervous to call.
Call anxiety. That is a great way of putting it.
I Googled it. It's a legit fear. You can get,
of course. Oh, we see it every day. We'll watch people turn beet red and make up every excuse, and that's okay, right? Because
it's okay.
That's not what you're meant to be doing.
Yeah, not the role for you. Doesn't mean it doesn't. Yeah, nothing about you as a person, but you would hate this role, and that's okay. Yeah. Gotcha. And then if they go through there, if they make phone calls and the lead ISA gives them a thumbs up, then they would do a group interview, meaning they would meet with a group of people from the team. And that's really to go over culture. Do we think they're going to fit in? Are there any concerns? And if they give the thumbs up, then we do a job offer.
Is that meeting with the agents in person? Is that Zoom? What does that look like? Is that kind of like your agent review panel? It's
preferred in person. I'll do it over Zoom. I don't have a problem. Obviously, with expansion, we do it over Zoom quite a bit. But typically, we're hiring people in this office, and it's done in the office. All of our ISAs are seated at one of the hubs. They're either in the Wichita hub or the Springfield hub. I don't have any remote ISAs at this time.
With that, have you ever had success with remote ISAs?
I've never tried.
Okay. Yeah. I have like 2 people that swear by it, and I have 90 people that say it's impossible. So
I haven't done it. I have an ISA that's wanting to move to Florida, so she would be remote. But to me, she's already come in. She's worked a year or 2 with us. It's definitely a job that can be done very easily remote. I think it's a lonely job. I think what makes it a fun job is being at an office of like-minded people. But it can be, I think on your own, it can be a little bit of a lonely job. So we'll have to kind of work through that. How do we keep her connected?
Gotcha. It's culture, right? You said culture's again, in that role, especially, like you said, you can get very isolated. And how do you keep it fun, right? How do you make it, it's the people. It's the people. So great. So I get a job offer. I start, talk us through the start period. So you mentioned a word in there, lead ISA. So I want to talk about that role, but before there was a lead ISA, like for example, when you hired the first what did you learn from that experience? And is the training process different now than it was then?
Oh, it's totally, it's very much different. Yeah. Yeah. I actually, our first hire was Christina, and she's still with me. So my first ISA still a success. Yeah. And she leads our Springfield team. And, the biggest thing, when my first hire, they just sat next to me, right? We did it together, and then I sat with them and I did it with them. And that worked really great. Now we have a full, day by day breakdown for their first 30 days, along with links and videos like, hey, at this time we watched this video. And we've had to get a lot more systematized with it just to make sure. Well, every time you hire somebody, you learn something, and in an effort not to forget it for the next one, right? We have to write it down. Otherwise I'll forget it. And so every time we learn something, we change our onboarding process. We might add a new video, take one out, add a step that we forgot. Every time somebody is brought on, we realize, oh, that really confused them. We must need to spell this out better, right? We're updating other documentation. And it does make it easier, and it does make it more consistent. Our results are more consistent years later than they were at the beginning. Like, I'm very confident that when I ask them to get 3 signatures, they're 30 to 60 days, and I ask them to get 4 signatures in their 60 to 90 days, that those are completely doable, because I now have a track record of, with this training, this is possible. And I feel more confident in enforcing those standards because I know that they're very possible to do.
So you said 3 signatures in 30 days?
So for us, it's in their 30 to 60 day, right? Their first 30 days, it's a lot of learning, right? They're learning CRMs, processes, scripting, things like that. I really don't have any hard metrics till their second month, which is the 30 to 60 days. Their first is just their training, finishing that, and then also their contact, making sure they're getting enough calls and contacts in.
And defining a signature, that means that they set the appointment, agent's gone out on the appointment and got either a listing agreement signed or a buyer under contract. Is that how you're defining the word signature?
It would be buyer's agency agreement. So the buyer would not have to go under contract necessarily.
Okay, good. So buyer agency agreement. Okay. So the idea is 3 in the first 60 days. But again, let's say I don't hit my 3 in 60 days. Is it an evaluation process? Is it they're a late bloomer? Do you just hack them? What happens in that? And that's if that doesn't come to fruition, what happens?
Yeah. It's case by case. So let's say they're at 2 and they've gotten 2 that the agents are like, hey, they're going to sign. We're just delayed because of this, right? I mean, I'm going to be like, okay, we're going to watch it. I'm going to let them know that we need to tack that on to the next month. But next month, this is our goal. The signature is a tough thing because it's only 50% the ISA, right? It's 50% their team. So I have to be a little bit. So in some cases, I've gone back and said, okay, this is the held goal too. So you need to hit the held goal or the signature goal. But I will say everybody I have on the team, some of them squeaked by on the last day or 2, but they all hit it. They all made it happen. Yeah.
That's awesome. So then as far as my daily activities, so that first 30 days I'm doing training, I'm watching videos, I'm probably shadowing a little bit, listening to people make calls, whatever it is. And then after I guess because people are going to really want to know about that training. Mm-hmm. In that, talk us through, is there daily script practice? Is there, how do they get proficient? So when they pick up that first expired phone call, they're ready to rock and roll. How do they get to that point? And especially if they don't have prior real estate experience, because that's the other comment I hear a lot is these people don't even know what an expired listing is or a for sale by owner is. So how does that work?
Yeah. So terminology training is one of the things, are the pieces of the onboarding, right? Here's some terminology, this is what it means. All of our ISAs are licensed, so they have gone through real estate school. So there is
that a requirement, Claire?
It's not a requirement to get hired. It is a requirement to start making the phone call. So they've got to get it pretty fast or be in the process of it.
Is that because of legal reasons, or is that just because that you guys think it's the right thing to do?
It's a little bit of both. It's obviously easier legally. So in the state of Missouri, and obviously being an expansion is tougher because some of the states we're in, it is required. And so it can just be easier in some cases, but they can't talk about listed property. So they can prospect and talk about the team. They can't talk about listed property. So they can't take inbound because obviously if somebody calls on the sign, you have to talk about listed property. So it's a little bit of both, but again, it's one of those things like, hey, we need it by this. And all of these things, right, you can probably see a theme, right? It's if then, right? If they do it, then we move on, right? If you want inbound leads and you want to be on the team, you got to get your license. It's a 3-week process here. It's a 2 to 3 week process. It's not crazy.
Then what's an average day look like? I guess once I'm done with training, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so it's a combination. So again, at the beginning, right, they listened to me make the calls. I made them on speakerphone, and they followed along with the script with me. Now we do it a little different. We do have script practice. So we have a sales call with all of our agents and expansion partners the ISAs are part of. That's 3 days a week, where we will go over scripting. Sometimes we go over like legality, like legal stuff that's going on, the market, what we're hearing, what we're seeing, and sometimes we're scripting. And then when that call drops off at about 8:20 every day, we'll script for 20 more minutes. And we record all of our calls. And so we've recently moved into, we will play a recorded call from one of the ISAs. Everybody will take notes, follow along, and give feedback on the call. And everybody takes a turn doing that. And that's how we do a lot of the training. If somebody's struggling, one of the first things we're going to do is they have to send me 2 calls every day to review. I want one that they thought they did really well on, because I need to know what their understanding of doing well on a call looks like. And also one that they think they struggled on. And that's one of the ways we've leveraged some of that. I don't go sit with them anymore. They take their recorded call and they send it to me, and I give them written feedback on it.
And that's genius. I think one of the things I hope everyone that's listening understands is, again, just like anything, how can you possibly help someone if you're not running tape, right? Like we talk about sports all the time. It's like you went left, you were supposed to go right, you got creamed, right? It's the same thing on this. So I'm sure a lot of people want to know, what tech are you using? So is it Call Fire? What Ring Central? What are you using as far as the dialing system? And also for a lot of people, because we talk, some of the times we talk and people don't have any clue what we're talking about. So as if I had no idea what we were talking about, right? Like, why do I need a dialing system or a call system?
Yeah, there's 2 big pieces of technology for an ISA. That's obviously a calling a system, right? They have to have a way to make phone calls. We do currently use Ring Central. We're getting ready to switch to a different company called Intermedia.
Is there a reason for that?
Yes, one of the limitations. So in expansion, so right now the biggest issue I face is a not answer rate. People don't pick up the phone. Yep. And in expansion, I have to have the ability to have the ISA call from a number that is local to that location. I can do that kind of from the CRM, yet Ring Central has a limitation where I can't change the outbound phone number without basically paying for a completely separate user.
Yes.
Yeah. And expansion's a total different animal. But if you can think about it, Ring Central is an app, right? It's an app on your phone or an app on your computer. You can only be logged in as one person at a time. So if you log out and log back in as somebody else to call from another area, you now miss every call back to the other member. Anyway, it's a bad deal.
Yeah,
but,
that's the techie stuff that people want to know, though, right? They because those are the questions that come up, right? So you need Ring Central for the dialer. What else do I need for my ISA to be successful?
Yeah. Ring Central, and then you need a CRM of some sort. So the acronyms lost.
Yeah, but what are you using?
So we use Sierra Interactive right now. Yep. Obviously, the one you use is the best one. A lot of them have the same basic features. I do think Sierra does a great job with what they do, and it allows. So with a lot of CRMs, Sierra in particular, you can turn on call recording in the CRM. So our default is if they're in the CRM, they're supposed to be calling through the CRM. When they're prospecting, obviously you can't call a lead that doesn't exist in your CRM yet. So you need another phone to call outbound leads. So leads that aren't in your system yet. And that's why there's two different phones. For us, all of our inbound leads, phone calls funnel to an ISA. So that's another reason for kind of a more robust company like Ring Central. It allows you to have inbound numbers that can then parse out to different people.
Gotcha. ISA learns how to call expireds or for sale by owners, gets a great person on the phone, but they're not quite ready to do something. They're like, hey, it's going to take us a year. What happens with that lead, with that ISA? What are your standards, requirements? Obviously, first step, put them into the CRM.
Yeah.
But that's just such a tiny piece, right? So like, is there a set, like we've got 10 things you have to do? Like you have to, you kept saying 5 calls, 5 days. I completely understand that. I get getting them on the phone is one of the bigger, things when you get an inbound lead. But once you've talked to somebody, where we see the biggest loss is, as you know, that conversion can take, an average buyer lead can convert in 550 days, right? It might convert right now, it might convert 3 years from now. How do you not, what's your system for not losing it in that middle time, that nurture time?
Yeah, you're exactly right. The first step is get it in the CRM. We have buckets, and the nurture bucket would be they're required to have a task on, and we audit that. Does everybody in the nurture bucket have a future task for them to be called?
In task meaning a call.
A reminder, something that would say, that's the great thing about a CRM, right? You can set a future reminder to call that person, and then you can audit, obviously, yourself or other people's reminders to make sure they're staying on top of them. We use, so Sierra allows you to partner with a company called Hatch, and they actually, we follow their follow-up model for the most part. And we actually tell the system, hey, they're a D buyer, and the system adds all the tasks for us, puts them on automation.
You're talking about Robbie and Eric?
Yes. Yeah.
Who are amazing. Yeah. Shout out to those guys.
Yeah, they do a great job, and the plans work well, and it makes it's great leverage for an ISA.
And when you say plans, you're meaning a workflow, which means either an automated email or automated text campaign or both. Is that what you mean by plan? Okay. And so you're using Hatch. They give you kind of that workflow, that content. You pay them a fee. They kind of build that out. It's built into Sierra. Is the client getting anything else? Do they get any direct mail? Do they get a note card? Are they getting a monthly newsletter from the team? Anything else, or is it just not that it's a ton in itself? Is it just the workflow?
It's just the workflow.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
I think it's great to have that other stuff. I don't have that built into our model right now. So now workflow starts kicking in. Reminders are set. Then I, as the ISA, set the appointment. Eventually, a year from now, how do you match what agent goes where? And that's the other big question, especially for those that are on a team. We get this quite a bit. Is there's some agents that just don't work well with ISAs, which we didn't realize was a thing. Do you see that same thing? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's weird. Do you have like a listing team and a buyer team for the ISA appointments? How does that all look? Yeah. So we're a little unique, especially considering as many units as we do. We run almost 2 agents to 1 ISA. So, from what I have seen, that's pretty low agent count. So our agents, we don't have a lot, but they do a large volume. And so they join our team for the ISA appointments. So the agents are all in a rotation. We round robin our leads, meaning when the lead comes in, we don't pick and choose which ISA they go to, right? Everybody's getting a fair share of the same ISAs when they're, if they're part of our team. That's how we run it. Yeah. And the agents are the same way. They get a fair share of the leads. The ISA does have a little bit of leeway, over the course of a month. We want them to have, if they had 8 listing appointments, 4 go to one agent, 4 go to the other agent. Yet if we're talking to them and this lead has a tie to this organization that we know the listing agent is part of, we're gonna slide them in there. Like we're gonna make, yeah. Or if we're like, oh my gosh, they have all the same hobbies as Curtis or Colton. Like we have some leeway there. Yet we do try to be fair. In about a month's time, make sure we're giving everybody about the same amount of leads.
Then appointment set, agent gets assigned. How does the agent get the assignment? Is this through a calendar, a spreadsheet? The ISA calls up and goes, Johnny, you're up. How does that transfer happen?
Yeah. So all of the agents, they share their work calendars with us, and they're asked to put all their personal stuff. They know if they don't put family time on there, if somebody wants to meet for a listing, they're going to get a listing appointment.
If I'm the ISA, I can see Susie agent's calendar. Is this Outlook or Google Calendar? What are we looking at?
Yeah, Gmail. They're all through Gmail.
So I'm looking at Susie's Gmail calendar, and it says, I'm available for appointments in these blocks, or more or less it says I'm not available during these blocks because I'm with my family on vacation, whatever, at getting my hair done, not me, but whatever it is. And then so they see that spot and they type what happened. They type in a form and says appointment set. How does that work?
Yeah. So our process is and a lot of times it happens while we're on the phone with them, because if you don't mark off their calendar, another ISA might take your spot, and then you're gonna have to call that client back and tell them we got to change the appointment. So when they're on the phone, a lot of times they're setting it. We have them set it on the ISA's calendar, and then they share it to the agent's calendar. And the reason we do that is so the agent gets the email that they got a new meeting invite. If the appointment is within 24 hours or same day, the ISA also needs to text or call the agent. They need to get a verbal commitment that, hey, I saw it and yeah, I can get it together in that much time, especially a listing appointment. We have to make sure they have time to pull the comps. And do something like that. But yeah, that we would do it on their calendar that way. And then we use Google form, you could do Jot form, but basically all of the pre-qual questions that you would typically ask a seller or a buyer, we have those in a form, and the ISA is going to fill out that form, and that'll get emailed to the agent. It'll get put in the calendar invite, and it gets put in the CRM.
Gotcha. Perfect. So then agent goes on appointment. If agent takes listing, sells listing, where does the relationship separate from the ISA? Is now the lead person here. They've introduced the agent. Agent goes and does the job. Does lead go back to ISA after agent's job is done? Or does agent, now that they have the relationship with this person, is the agent calling them every 60 days to check in and see how they're doing?
Nope, it goes back to the ISA when they close, and the ISA does the quarterly check-ins.
And was that a hard thing? Because we see agents get challenged with that, where they don't feel comfortable, because you hear this a lot, my client, right? I don't want them calling my client. Even we get agents that say, you can call this group, but not this group, right? So did you have any, resistance there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Definitely.
So everyone's not alone, right? Everyone's not alone. Okay.
Yeah, and it's normal. And I would say it's even okay, right? I don't want to call your best friend from high school that you go have dinner with every other week, right? I don't really want to call that person. Right. I want to call the Zillow lead from 2 years ago that you forgot you sold their house. That's who I want to call. Okay. And so I will take whatever they give me. And what we find is, once you get 6-12 months in, and I know that sounds like a long time, but once you get 6 to 12 months in and they start getting business that they forgot about, right? Because if that agent is letting us call like their clients, right, we automatically are teeing that agent back up if they get any repeat or referral business. So we're not giving it to somebody else. We're just setting it up for them. And when they start getting those people and they realize that it works, then they'll start giving us more and more people to nurture. And on the flip side, if your ISA does not call them, I will tell you, if we see a listing pop up and nobody's called that lead in over 90 days, I mean, the agent will let us know, and it's not, and it's appropriate, right? We promise to take care of that client. And if we fail, we have to fix it, because we very well we lost that client in maybe some reason because the ISA didn't call in a timely manner. And so it goes both ways. It keeps everybody accountable because, the ISA doesn't want to lose the lead for the agent. And obviously, if the agent knows by passing over the lead that they'll get more business, it's a win-win, but it definitely keeps everybody.
Your average agent is closing how many deals a year?
I mean, our buyer's agent, Carrie, will do 250, 260. She's got a couple showing partners. Yeah, she does a lot of business. Our listing agents will do between 75 and 125. They all have different goals. They do a lot of closings. Mm-hmm.
And average price point?
Yeah, it depends on the location, but our hubs are right between 200 and 300.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Because that was one of the things some people they get challenged on understanding this, that your average sales price is $700,000. Because I have people that are in like Vail or San Francisco, and they're in these really expensive markets, mm-hmm. and you don't see that kind of volume, right? Those many units, and they go, well, then should I still have an ISA? I think what you said earlier is the answer is yes, because it's still keeping your database. It's a fail safe to make sure that nobody gets forgotten, mm-hmm. right? So depending on, we hear these numbers, 260, which is amazing. She doesn't ever want to have to do lead follow-up, right? Or not even if she doesn't want to, she couldn't, even if she wanted to. There's no physical time there where she could possibly do that. The other thing we see is, especially with newer ISA teams, is the agent doesn't want to do the ISA split, right? They go, I can just build my center of influence and make money that way, or I can. So you said a great thing earlier where you said people join our team because of our ISA department. So in looking at that, because I know I'll get a lot of questions on this. How's the money work? How's the splits work? Why would I want to do that instead of me getting X amount on my own deal? Why would I want to go on an ISA appointment, and why would I feel that it's fair?
Yeah. So the split is 8% off the top. So whatever your split is, whether it's 25% or 50-50, the ISA is paid first. So Adam eats, the team, Adam, Josh, whoever it is, they eat part of that cost.
Gotcha.
Of the ISA. They're willing to pay for half of it, 3/4 of it, whatever that split is. And so the agent split is fairly minimal. And, it depends on where they're coming from. But if we were to take the past client thing, I would say, well, how many past clients have you missed in the last year? Well, if you had only missed half of those, you actually would have netted this amount of money, even paying an ISA. So what we find is by the ISA saving even a handful of deals for an agent a year, they more than pay for all of the other splits occurred over the whole time. And that's eventually, back when I was here, I was probably here 6 months to a year, and I wanted all the sign calls. And Adam was really pushing. He's like, well, you've never been to the house. Like, how are you going to talk about the house? Yeah. And I was like, well, from what I understand from Anna, it's not about the house. It's about why they're wanting to buy. And so I don't know if it really matters. I went, he made me, I took 3 days. I went and toured every house we had. Popped all the lock boxes, went and saw all the houses. And one day we were in the conference room, and he took a phone call and he hung up, and I said, was that a sign call? And he said, yeah. And he goes, but they're not ready right now. They're not that interested. I said, well, did you write their phone number down? And he's like, I said, are you going to put it in the system? And he's like, and he transferred him to me that day. And he never
That's what I think what's so amazing is you've created you and him and the whole organization has created this culture where we have to win together, because there's so much we're leaving on the table if we don't.
Yeah.
Right. It's just stupid if we don't. That's a great example of it, where I think so many agents would be like, oh, well, if that call came in, I hear this all the time, I'd never give that to an ISA. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like,
how many calls do you never call back?
Yeah, exactly.
Voicemails that never get called back.
Well, you nailed it. It's like, okay, you have 3 weeks of, license training, right? And you think you're some ninja expert on houses and all of these things. And I just think, yeah, it's the arrogance. I think sometimes we see this arrogance and it really limits people on how much success they could be having. Claire, I would love to continue talking to you about this forever because this is amazing. And I hope we can get to do this again because I only got through half of my questions because again, there's a lot that goes into it, right? I mean, there is a lot that goes into it. So tell us a little bit about what can we do to support you? If I'm wanting to find out about being an amazing ISA, if I'm an agent and I want to join your amazing organization, what should I do? Who should I contact? How can I come and work for you guys?
Yeah. My email is Claire, CLAIRE at Adam Graddy, and that's 2Ds. .com. Reach out. I can connect you with the right person. Whether you have a question about, our ISA model or you're interested in joining our organization, we would love to hear from you.
And you're also an ISA coach, correct? Do you still have open availability if somebody goes, look, I want you to be my Anna Kruger, and I would, I need you, Claire. I need you.
Yeah.
Do you have any availability of that, or are you booked? How does that look?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of spots open. I just have a couple windows where I do a little bit here and there, just because our organization's growing so large. Yeah. However, I do have some things in the works. So if you're interested in something like that, reach out to me. I'm looking at doing maybe some monthly, weekly masterminds. We're hoping to have something at Mega Camp this summer. So feel free, if you're interested at all, reach out to me. I'll get you on my email list, and we may have some things coming later this year.
That's fantastic. And we'll post all of this, of course, and make sure everyone has all of her info. But Claire, thank you so much. Thank you for helping everyone out there and being so open and willing to share these systems and tools, because just like we know, you can give everybody the keys to the castle. Are they going to do the work, right? It's not easy. It's just not easy. Do you think that it's been this successful because of the resilience of learning from the mistakes, or has it been this successful because the system or the model you were following?
I obviously, like I said, I came in to the organization to build a team. I never imagined building one quite this large, but having people I have people in my life that think really big. I am not resistant to change, yet change does not always excite me. Growth can be a little bit scary, and I have to kind of wrap my mind around it. Yet I have really big thinkers in my organization that help pave the way and show me where they want to go and help me find that. If I got a lot of resistance all the way, maybe we wouldn't be quite where we're at, but I didn't get resistance. I got a lot of support and, a lot of help pushing us that way. And, Josh, Adam, Melinda, all those big people in our organization, they help pave the way for that, and I think that's the biggest thing. If leadership doesn't believe in the ISA model, then it's not going to happen. Like, you have to want it and believe in it and help pave that way. Because that's a pretty big mountain to ask somebody to climb, to not only build it, but build it with resistance. If they can build it, but build it with help, it'll go a lot smoother.
Well, you're a rock star. The organization is a rock star. Thank you for sharing with everyone. And we wish you continued great success.
Thank you, Brendan. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.